Happy Saturday! So, I have started something new, and those of you who would like to play along, welcome. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this yet, maybe Tarot Thursdays. But it's Saturday. I started this new journal only for card readings. So, every morning I wake up and I listen to Marianne Williamson's 1 to 2 minute meditation, which you can sign up for. It is called Transform. So you just subscribe. She sends you a 1 or 2 minute meditation from A Course in Miracles and reads it in her soothing voice. And then I pull a card. And so what I thought would be cool is at the end of the week to look at the themes that emerged in my cards. And I know this is a hot topic. And so one thing I'm thinking about is the difference between oracle cards and tarot cards. And also the history of all of that. So we'll get to that because I think that might be helpful. And also, in my training as an art therapist, I really rely a lot on symbols and color and the things that kind of come up within us from our subconscious. And Carl Jung is one of the founders of this idea of our subconscious being able to tell us these things about ourselves and our histories and even our genealogies that we kind of can't access just through the mind alone. So symbols and colors can sometimes emerge in our dreams, as we've talked about before. And the way that I have been trained to use oracle cards is to use them as a symbolic element and a way to access the deeper parts of ourself. And so once I do a brief meditation with Marianne, then I go on and pull a card from a deck that I feel like I want to pull a card from. And I have about 8 decks, I think, from different people. Feel free to reach out if you want some sort of guidance around that. I'm no expert on oracle card decks, but I am someone who really emphasizes the power of personal intuition. And so if you are feeling drawn to something, then I think go for it. Learn something from it. And so one of my first decks I got was an animal spirit card. And I will say that animal spirit feel like the easiest to connect to because for me, we all have some sort of innate part of us that understands and has compassion for animals if we really come down to it. And so there are things that just like make sense. Like when you pull a card from this deck, it says things like hummingbird spirit. It's about being present right now and not flitting around everywhere, right? So it's these little like reminders that come to us. So pulling a card can just be a fun way to like set a tone for the day and really check in with your like core self around what message you might need to kind of just be in the day and be fully present. So for today, I am going to look back on the last week and my different card pulls that I've pulled. And so hopefully I can fast forward this and it will go really fast for you. But I thought it would be cool to see how things kind of work together. So on the first day I pulled a star. This is the first I ever pulled from this deck. And I just think it's beautiful. I am a water baby. And I have also been really getting into my physical body more. And as you know, with that third chakra, been exploring my own sense of willpower and self-confidence. And there's the color yellow. So it's like, this is just like my card right now. I just feel it. Plus I had my friend Temple, like I said, stay with me last week. And she has me in her phone as Jae the star. So cute. And her new last name that she gave herself is Gladstar. So there's just like a star theme. And so I think I'll probably keep this out for a while because I think it's really relevant to who I am right now. Oh, look at all these cards. So I pulled from Animal Spirit, and I pulled from this deck, which is You Are the Oracle, which comes back to this is not about necessarily reaching externally, but about connecting the message to who you are internally. This one is more of like a mantra deck. And then this is kind of your original tarot deck. And something that I learned about that this week was that the artist who created this deck worked with a man, but she was a woman from Jamaica. And she actually illustrated all of these tarot cards. And it was in like the 1800s. So very cool, right? To think about like what was happening with women in the 1800s. And her as an illustrator, she also worked in theater with Yates. So cool. So that is more of a classic deck. I will post a picture of it. And I'm taking a course in the upcoming weeks on the Young platform, which talks about this Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. That's kind of the classic deck. It talks about the archetypes that are in the deck, the images and the words and the meanings behind it, and how it relates to our subconscious and how it relates to Carl Jung's studies of the subconscious and dream states, and how we're connected to a larger collective of humans and the world that we live in. So I will probably have more to report back on. Anyway, I wanted to just quickly point out my kind of trajectory of the week. So some of the first cards I pulled was from this deck, and it was Unbound and Warrior Woman. And I felt like I am moving into this new season in the fall of kind of releasing past, and not just past in the sense of this past year and moving into a new year, but also some of the stuff that has held on to me for a very long time around patterns and familial things that can keep us bound. I'm making a conscious decision to really move beyond them and let go. And Warrior Woman is about like, have you accessed and answered your deepest calling? And I am moving into my private practice, which I know is just a start of what that's going to look like. There's probably many dimensions and layers and seasons for that. But right now I'm moving into this deepest calling of having a private practice. And then the next cards I pulled were, so sometimes you just look at the image. This is a couple and two little doggies and a baby and an older person, and they're standing in this archway, and the meanings or the words around it are abode or home, and kind of moving into a new season, and that season having to do with making family, your family, a priority. That's how I read that for me. I also listened to this great podcast this weekend, and I will put that below, but it's about numerology and how actually next year, 2022, the themes that can sometimes come back is family and nurturing. And so I think that we're moving into a season of nourishment, nurturing, and family. And so that card, I think I pulled the same day I listened to that podcast, and it made sense to me. And then I will say that I also pulled some that were kind of disturbing. So I pulled the 10 of Swords. One day I pulled 3. So sometimes if more than one pops out, then just go with it and see what they have to say. So I pulled the 10 of Swords and the Moon and Death. And that one kind of set me off a bit because I was like, what are all of these things? They seem very scary. The middle one I think was protection for my best friend. She's moving into some new territory, and I actually felt like I related to this figure looking down on her and kind of watching over her, because that is sometimes my role in her life. And these two, I'm kind of holding on. I have no idea. So if anyone has an idea of why death has presented itself to me, I could say that it might be death of the old, right? So as we move into new seasons, we have to kind of crucify the old so that there's space for better, newer things. We have to allow for that death. There's also something in these images around journeying, and we just made a decision to re-sign our lease, and I think we're probably going to stay here for another year. And so the journeying has kind of come to a death. We're not journeying anymore. We're staying put. These swords make this person stay put. So the death of kind of the journey maybe is something that I thought could be the message around that. I pulled a boundaries card. Where do you need to establish better boundaries? This was like on Wednesday, and Wednesdays are really hard. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are hard for me because I'm emotionally and physically tired. And so this was a reminder for me that I need to maybe up my boundary game a little bit on those days. And my tolerance is to give less. And that's just a reality. It's unfortunate in a way, but it's a reality. And so a reminder to keep those boundaries. And then I also pulled rewriting the subconscious. And the more I embrace feeling good, the less often I will feel bad. And so instead of being like feeling bad around the fact that I need to have boundaries in some of my meetings, I am going to cover it over with love and love myself and say, instead of feeling guilty, instead of feeling like I wish I could be more, I'm going to feel good about myself and what I can give. I'm going to flip that perspective. So that was Wednesday, and then I think my next days included, I pulled the Knight of Pentacles for David, which is about steadiness and moral code, which is totally accurate. And then there's a few that I was like, well, I don't know. Strength in the Hermit. So if anyone has any thoughts around that. Lastly, I pulled Pig Spirit today. So I don't know if this is a sign of something I need to move into in the next week. I'm taking a break this weekend, not working myself too hard, and this is about using my mind, my intellect, my talents really in thinking, because that's a lot of what therapy is, wisely. And so I am going to take this as a sign for next week. So I'll probably keep these two out so that I can remind myself of this next week as I begin the week on Monday. So this is my weekly Oracle Tarot card kind of recap. And if this is of interest to you, then continue to tune in, and I might record something every week around my routine, my ritual every day, and how I think that's enhancing my connection to myself, to my life choices, and to my spiritual journey on a daily and weekly and cumulative monthly, yearly, lifelong basis. Please let me know your thoughts around how cards have helped you, around messages that you've received, and if you want to try and go into interpreting any kind of symbols or archetypes or colors, and you kind of have some questions around that, I would be happy to just have some discussion. And I hope you're having a wonderful weekend, and we will move into chakra number 4 on Monday with Make with Jae mornings.